All right, fantastic. So I'll start. Good afternoon, chairs, members of the committee. My name is Cade Crockford. I'm the director of the Technology for Liberty program at the ACLU. I'm joined by my colleague, Emiliano Falcon-Morano, who's going to speak to you shortly. Emiliano and I are very excited to be here today on behalf of the ACLU and our nearly 100,000 members and supporters statewide to testify in strong support of the Massachusetts Information Privacy Act, which we're going to call MIPA. That is House 142 and Senate 46. We also support House 136 filed by Representative Rogers and Senate 50 filed by Chair Feingold. We're heartened to see so much interest in digital privacy this session, and we look forward to continued collaboration with this committee, lawmakers here, residents, and advocacy partners to make sure Massachusetts takes strong action to protect the public interest in this area. And doing so, as you've heard from others, is an urgent necessity. After all, every single one of us leaves behind a trail of data that reveals nearly everything there is to know about us: our interests, political preferences, health conditions, social networks, deepest fears, greatest desires, and so much more. We use the internet to find love, work, housing, fellowship, education, and to get from point A to point B. It is a central part of our lives. Despite the centrality of the internet, people in Massachusetts, as Senator Cream said, have essentially no control over how companies use the information that we generate online. Companies today can use big data to discriminate against us. For example, researchers found that users of ride-hailing apps in Chicago were charged higher fares when they took trips to or from Black and brown neighborhoods. There are other dangers. A few years ago, you probably remember, the Cambridge Analytica scandal showed us our online data can be used not just to sell us shoes, but also to try to sell us authoritarian politics. Now, researchers are divided on the question of whether or not the Trump campaign's digital manipulations in fact tipped the election results, but there's no doubt that big data manipulations can have a huge impact on a person's choices. Take, for example, a case in Massachusetts where a digital ad buyer used geolocational targeting to serve ads to people in the vicinity of Planned Parenthood offices, and not just any ads. These ads encouraged people to seek healthcare at anti-abortion, quote unquote, family planning centers. And likewise, in Philadelphia, patients waiting at an ER were targeted with ads for personal injury lawyers. So losing control over one's personal information can be a shattering event. For example, users of the gay dating app Grindr were shocked to learn in 2018 that that company was sharing their HIV status and other extremely sensitive personal information with third parties. So the lack of regulation harms all of us, not just sexual minorities, not just people seeking medical care. According to reports, this is astonishing, there is a $12 billion industry exclusively dedicated to selling and trading our cell phone location data. And a journalist working for Vice, looking into this industry, was able to pay a bounty hunter $300 and in return received real-time cell phone location information for his own cell phone. Obviously, the existence of a market like this threatens every single person's personal autonomy and even safety. And Massachusetts residents should not fear that using a cell phone will subject them to invasive, shadowy surveillance, enabling untold numbers of people across the world to track their every single movement in real time and historically. The only way to address problems like the ones I have described and many others is through the law. And so I'm very happy to turn to my colleague Emiliano, who's going to describe how MIPA works and what it seeks to accomplish. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cade. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Cade. Good afternoon. My name is Emiliano Falcon-Morano. I am the Policy Counsel for the Technology for Liberty program at the ACLU of Massachusetts. MIPA is a major legislative package that draws on lessons learned from significant privacy laws enacted in other jurisdictions, including Europe, California, and Illinois, with the goal of establishing the Commonwealth as a leader in the field of data privacy. I want to provide a general overview of 4 important aspects of this bill. Together, these provisions will enable us to exercise control over our personal information for the first time in this digital era. First, the bill goes beyond the typical de facto notice and consent framework that alone completely fails to protect privacy. I'm sure you've clicked I agree thousands of times to access a website or an application, and I'm confident that you didn't once read one of those agreements. And if you did read it, it was hard to get through, confusing, and certainly did not build a trust relationship with the company collecting your data. MIPA addresses this click to agree problem in two ways. First, by creating meaningful notice and opt-in consent requirements that consider how privacy fatigue affects individuals. And second, by shifting the burden to corporations, establishing that they owe the duties of care, loyalty, and confidentiality to their users when collecting and processing their personal information. The second important aspect of MIPA is that it protects against so-called black box discrimination. Black box discrimination is when companies use secret and complex algorithms that result in different treatment for different groups of people. Kate provided the example of the research in the city of Chicago that showed discrimination in pricing algorithms used by ride-hailing companies. So to address these and similar harms, the bill prohibits companies from processing personal information in a way that would discriminate against individuals that belong to protected classes when advertising, offering products and services, and providing access to public accommodations. Third, MIPA bans the practice of selling and trading especially sensitive types of information, namely location information and biometric data. And to make sure that companies never collect a person's biometric data without their consent, the bill requires that a company obtain specialized, discrete, express consent for collecting biometric information. Location and biometric data are especially risky and dangerous, and MIPA treats them accordingly. Finally, MIPA is serious about enforcement. Privacy law has to be very serious about enforcement, so MIPA adopts a two-pronged approach. First, the creation of a new agency empowered to levy civil administrative penalties and a private right of action. I want to note here that both penalties and court awards provided by MIPA are expressed in dollar figures and in percentages of revenue so that they impact all businesses, small or large, in an equitable way. This will ensure both an avenue for redress from data privacy harms and deterrence of bad practice, as private enforcement of antitrust law shows. All in all, MIPA is a complete...
Wrap up. What?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Chair, I'm wrapping up. MIPA is a complete package of data privacy protections. If it is enacted, this landmark bill will protect Massachusetts residents and establish the Commonwealth as a global leader in information privacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.